The StoneZONE with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Troy Smith, and I am the co-host here of the StoneZONE, and we are proud to be here on this Friday, following what has to be one of the most unbelievable State of the Union speeches ever given. I have never in my life seen a president go up on stage there for the State of the Union with such contempt for the American people, such hatred of the American people, and such a willingness to attack the values that have propped up this nation for so many years. We're happy to be here in the StoneZONE today to break things down. But folks, if you caught the State of the Union speech last night, you most likely were pretty angered by it. And as most people should be, you know, it's pretty remarkable in a day where things at the grocery store are 25 to 30, maybe even 40 times or 40% more expensive. And that's on the lighter things. Sometimes, 200, 300% more expensive on some things, ever since Biden took office. And overall, it's never been harder to get by as an American. It's never been more difficult to pay your rent, to pay your mortgage. And that money is worth less and less. And at the same time, this Biden administration sat there last night, you saw it with your own eyes, and pretended as if everything was okay. And what's particularly interesting to me is that the worst thing about the Biden administration, because it's universal. I mean, yes, they're allowing the DOJ to target people who are white. They're actually going after white people and calling us terrorists and calling supporters of the former president, Donald Trump, terrorists. I mean, they're coming after us with every aspect of the intelligence agencies and law enforcement. And while they're doing that, they are simultaneously telling the American people, we're trying to protect you and everything's going all right. Just like with the groceries, just like with the gasoline, everything's okay. Everything's fine. And my question is, how much longer is that going to last? And as I was getting into just there, things with the economy are getting to the point where people are getting desperate. People are getting extremely desperate. And it's interesting to me to see that manifest in other political avenues. Like the pro-Palestine protests. Now, they didn't talk about this really on mainstream media, but Joe Biden was 20 minutes late to the podium last night. And the reason that he was late was because there was hundreds of pro-Palestine protesters blocking the roadways in Washington, D.C., and calling Joe Biden Genocide Joe. Now, I highlighted this on the show. We showed the poll here. Everybody can look up the issues from November of last year to now. Joe Biden has shed 9% of his own party support when it pertains to the Middle East and the handling of Israel and Hamas, the conflict there. And that is a manifestation, I believe, of this bait and switch that the Biden administration is pulling. You can't tell people one thing and then do another. Eventually, they start figuring it out. And as things with the economic problems continue to compound and get worse and worse and escalate, that political angst comes out in other places, like in these protests that we saw last night. And make no mistake, it doesn't matter if the Gen Z people or the millennials stop buying their avocado toast every day or stop buying Starbucks coffee. They can't afford rent. They can't afford to buy a house. Most of them can't afford to drive a car. Most of them can't afford to do anything. So that angst shows itself within BLM, it shows itself within Antifa, it shows itself within now the pro-Palestine movement, where these people, I mean, I saw just today, they were destroying pieces of art in Europe, and eco-terrorists have bombed Elon Musk, or not bombed, they've destroyed pieces of Elon Musk's Tesla factory in Germany. There's attacks popping up everywhere, and it's because of this political angst and these left-wing radicals who have been told by those in charge that they're entitled to do what they're doing, and they're entitled to destroy beauty, and they're entitled to try to destroy humanity. Here to break down everything that's going on in the State of the Union last night. He's had a long career in politics. He's a legend. Welcome, Roger Stone, onto the Stone Zone here.
Thank you very much, Troy, and thanks for jumping in, starting our great show today. I must say, having watched that performance last night, I've never really quite seen anything like it. I mean, traditionally, State of the Union addresses are supposed to be inspiring, uplifting, designed to reassure the country. When you can, you try to be bipartisan. Even when calling on the other party, you do so in a respectful and constructive way. I checked, never in the history of the nation has any president referenced either directly or indirectly their predecessor. Yet, 13 times yesterday, Joe Biden tried to call out Donald Trump, although not by name, only referring to him as my predecessor. The tone was much too hot, too angry, too bitter. I really don't understand why he yells like that. It's not very presidential, other than to say perhaps his advisors have told him that he has to show people he's actually alive and breathing because, well, they doubt it. I don't think he helped himself with that performance. I even saw some in the fake news media criticizing the tone of it. He does give you a kind of a heads up that they would like to make this next election largely about abortion because, well, they can't win on any other issue. And that's the other thing, Troy. He openly attacked the U.S. Supreme Court with the court member sitting right in front of him. This is a co-equal branch of government. If Donald Trump had ever done that, the far left would be in high dungeon today, they'd be going out of their minds. Yet he basically threatened the U.S. Supreme Court, kind of like when Chuck Schumer threatened them, and nothing happened to him either.
Well, exactly, Roger. And at some point, you're looking at this and saying, okay, they're claiming that Trump is attacking democracy and that Trump is trying to end democracy. Jen Psaki said on her show 2 weeks ago, that it was shared by every major Democrat, Trump is running to end the presidency. That's what they say. And at the same time, he's breaking precedent. As you just said, he's the first guy to mention his predecessor during the State of the Union speech, and he's the first guy to sit there and attack the Supreme Court justices to their face. I mean, does that not highlight to you? Right? I mean, you're in such an interesting position here, Roger, because you were really the person that this all opened up on when they raided your house and they made that into a spectacle. Do you see the kind of road from that event to what we see today? It's almost like they become more and more emboldened.
Yeah, very sadly, I guess I was the test case, and they wanted to see what they could get away with me and with General Flynn. And basically, I learned the hard way that in the DC circuit, the law doesn't matter, the Constitution doesn't matter, the facts most certainly don't matter, and you certainly can't get a fair trial just in pre-trial motions. In my case, the judge basically disallowed any reasonable defense I might have mounted, which of course meant that the result of the trial was never in doubt. By the way, just to remind you, sorry, they never found any evidence either of Russian collusion or, more importantly in this case, WikiLeaks collaboration. Any communications that I had with the Twitter persona of Guccifer 2.0, which they harped on constantly, saying, well, he was a Russian intelligence asset and Stone was in touch with him. Well, yes, and I made those very limited communications entirely public. They were benign. I received nothing of value from him. I passed nothing of value on to anyone else. There's no evidence there of collusion or coordination. This whole idea that Stone knew in advance that WikiLeaks was going to publish information about Hillary Clinton. Everyone knew that. All you had to do was follow the public comments on the record of Julian Assange. So, look, I think most people understand. I went through what I went through, not because I did something wrong, certainly not because I engaged in any traitorous or illegal behavior, but in order to pressure me to bear false witness against Donald Trump. So I was basically a pawn. It wasn't me they wanted to get, although I'm not telling you that they loved me, but they were trying to get at Trump, and we're going to see this again. Unfortunately, you unearthed a great article which I had forgotten about the transition project, which was I think a project of Project Democracy or the Democracy Project. You can correct me on that, but those guys sued me in a civil suit prior to my being criminally charged, in which they tried to allege that I had served as a go between WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign. And when it came time for the civil trial, their proof was essentially a bunch of clippings from the Huffington Post. That's not proof. That's fake news. Those are allegations. There was no proof to be found because, well, still not true.
Well, Roger, and that article you're referring to, people can check out on my site, launchliberty.com. It's on the front page, and it talks about the Transition Integrity Project, and it talks about a lot of speculation and planning that went into the 2020 election. I think it's important, and it's important because they actually go through each scenario. And you know, Roger, we sit here and we talk about constructive media narratives and constructed media narratives, and how they use that to form general opinions among the public that they use to attack people. And you see this work all the time when they just put things. And a perfect example of this, Roger, is the Trump. When they talk about Trump's cognitive decline and they try to insert that into the narrative, they can take something like a HuffPo article that's completely fake. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they put that in a court proceeding. And what's crazy is that the judges will actually allow them to get away with that, Roger. I mean, it's gotten to a point where I think most Americans look at the justice system and think of it as a joke. And really, it comes down to, do you know the right people? Do you have enough money? And when that's the case, your country's in a really, really bad position. And it speaks to where we are with Joe Biden. You know, Roger, we wanted to run a clip here last night of the protesters in Washington, D.C., protesting who they call Genocide Joe. And we're going to run that clip here. And I want to get your thoughts on Biden's declining support for his handling of the Middle East situation within his own party here.
We do not agree that the corporations get to have more rights than us and the people in Gaza. Shame! 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 Criminal! Criminal! No! When I say genocide, you say Joe! Genocide! Joe! Genocide! Joe! When I say genocide, you say Joe! Genocide! Joe!
No more money for Israel's crime. No more money for Israel's crime.
Genocide! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Yeah, this is turning out to be a real problem for the Democratic Party. It was interesting that at the victory party for Adam Schiff, who, as you know, is now in a runoff, he ran neck and pencil neck with Steve Harvey, the baseball great who came out of nowhere to contend for that seat. His victory party was disrupted by pro-Gaza demonstrators. This is a giant looming problem for the Democratic Party. Troy, we have a very special interview that I did with Alex Jones. We're going to cut to in a moment, but we have about 2 minutes. Why don't you wrap up your final comments, and then Alex Jones has given us special permission to run this great interview.
Oh, we love Alex Jones. We love InfoWars. Last night, I think it's important for people to realize that while Biden can sit up there and act like the all powerful Oz, really his power is an illusion because at the end of the day, we have control over raising children. We have control over having families. We have control over the American future. And if we continue to take hold of that and we continue to stick by what is true and what is right, there is no amount of screaming that senile tyrant can do to bring our country down. And it's only a matter of time for all those in the government, for all those in the media, for all of those who have sat by and watched their country be destroyed over the last 3 years with this guy running things. A rude awakening is coming in November, and the people of this country are going to go to the ballot box like never before, and they're going to send you a big middle finger in the form of Donald Trump. He's going to take back the White House, and I think, Roger, last night just kind of indicated how close we are to sealing that deal. I think at the end of the day, Biden's got a lot of issues, and every time he goes out in public, it just reassures those issues in the minds of the American people.
Perfect place to leave it. So we're going to show you this special interview with Alex Jones. I want to thank you for joining us this Friday on the Stone Zone. I want to be pretty clear. What I've said for a couple years is I believe that Michelle Obama would be the Democratic nominee for president in 2024, and I stand by that. That doesn't mean that she's going to run for president. I actually don't think she really wants to do this, but I believe that the incapacity of Joe Biden is so obvious. The impact of his policies is so disastrous, and the revelations regarding the Biden crime family keep getting worse and worse. All those things add up to Joe Biden not running again. At which time, and I think this will be done very close to the Democratic National Convention, but I think at that juncture, he announces that due to reasons of health, which everyone can see, that he will not accept renomination. And at that point, he will release his delegates, which would be more sufficient to not nominate him. And the convention will go absolutely wild in their efforts to draft their strongest potential candidate, Michelle Obama. Tonight is going to be great. Based on what I've read at True Social, President Trump is going to be live posting during the State of the State, as he puts it, to rebut any disinformation regarding either the record of Joe Biden and his administration, or any news about the weaponization of the criminal justice system against Trump. So this should be highly, highly entertaining.
I've got a lot of questions for Roger Stone, who joins me now. My former co-host on the War Room that I am hosting here 3 to 6 p.m. Central, filling in for Alex today, though. My co-host, and boy, oh boy, have Roger and I been through the political persecution since the days of us hosting the War Room together. But here we are, Roger, stronger than ever. Always a pleasure to be joined by you. I'm going to dive right in. I'm going to dive right into the Big Mike, Iron Mike Obama. Comes out with, maybe the fact that she even has an office making a statement is why you think this, but Big Mike, Iron Mike Obama's office comes out and says, no presidential run. She's not doing it. You immediately follow up by saying, yep, this means she's running. Roger Stone.
Well, Owen, first of all, it's great to be back with you. What a long, strange trip it's been, my brother. And until you've gone through the kind of crucible you and I have both been through, it's very hard for people to appreciate. And like your caller a little earlier, I prayed for you, as I know you prayed for me in that crucible. And I'm just very happy to see you back on the air, stronger, more vibrant, harder hitting, more effective, and more popular than ever. So it's a great thing. Proves that Jesus Christ can indeed do anything. To go right to the heart of your question, I want to be pretty clear. What I've said for a couple years is I believe that Michelle Obama would be the Democratic nominee for president in 2024, and I stand by that. That doesn't mean that she's going to run for president. I actually don't think she really wants to do this, but I believe that the incapacity of Joe Biden is so obvious. The impact of his policies is so disastrous, and the revelations regarding the Biden crime family keep getting worse and worse. All those things add up to Joe Biden not running again, at which time, and I think this will be done very close to the Democratic National Convention, but I think at that juncture, he announces that due to reasons of health, which everyone can see, that he will not accept renomination. And at that point, he will release his delegates, which would be more sufficient to not nominate him. And the convention will go absolutely wild in their efforts to draft their strongest potential candidate, Michelle Obama. It is only at that juncture, Owen, that I think that she succumbs to that draft based on the simple argument they're going to make to her is that she is the strongest potential candidate against Donald Trump. So it's not that I think she's going to run for president, but I do ultimately believe that she will be talked into or drafted as their candidate. And she is indeed, when you look at particularly at Kamala Harris as an alternative, or Gavin Newsom as an alternative, she is potentially a stronger candidate than either one of them.
Well, certainly Kamala. She can't suck off 70 or 80 million American voters. So I don't know how she could possibly win an election. But okay, so let's get more into the details. So you see it being, because I always ask, well, how do the Democrats do this? So they're going to have to take the loss and admit they lied about Joe Biden's health. They're going to have to take the loss and admit that, yeah, okay, we covered up for Joe Biden's obvious health issues. Then they're going to have to take another loss, basically throwing Kamala Harris under the bus and admitting that she's a complete joke. She's a complete farce. So, I mean, do they just weigh it as the damage that we do to ourselves in those two instances? It's less damage than trying to run Joe again.
Perhaps. I mean, you're absolutely right about the fact that that Kamala Harris is the giant impediment to all of this. Under any normal scenario, if a sitting incumbent president announced that they were not running again for reasons of health, the obvious choice, the person in line, would be the sitting vice president. But look, Kamala Harris doesn't have senile dementia, and she makes even less sense than Joe does. And the Democrats know it. So they have to figure out a way to get her out of the line of succession. I have suggested that they probably, when I say they, I mean Barack Obama, comes to her and says, look, if you will simply step aside, let Michelle be the presidential nominee, let Gavin Newsom and the hundreds of millions of dollars in special interest money that he would bring be our vice presidential candidate, and you, Kamala, will get the next vacancy on the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, she's a former Attorney General of California. She's a former Oakland County prosecutor. I mean, on paper, she's qualified for that job. As long as they have a Democratic president and if they maintain control of the Senate, it's a simple majority for confirmation, that could sadly actually happen. So I think that's the way it will ultimately be resolved.
Oh my gosh, that was like a gut blow. I didn't mean, that was a natural reaction. You say Kamala Harris on the Supreme Court. That was like somebody just kicked me in the stomach. Oh, can you imagine? I'd rather not. Okay, now let me ask you this. Would the Republicans be doing the Democrats a favor by doing so much damage to Joe Biden with the impeachment inquiry and the investigation into the Biden crime family? Would the Republicans be doing the Democrats a favor by having all of that come out before the nomination process, or should they wait until after Joe Biden is nominated and then begin the attack? Because I feel like doing this damage to Joe Biden or even getting Joe Biden impeached or whatever before the nomination process would almost be doing the Democrats a favor.
Yeah, I kind of agree with your analysis. In other words, if I had my choice, I'd like to see a rematch between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The idea of a Biden-Trump debate is just delicious. I can't believe that Biden would agree to such a thing. I think he will come up with a dozen excuses as to why he can't participate in a debate. Tonight is going to be great. Based on what I've read at True Social, President Trump is going to be live posting during the State of the State, as he puts it, to rebut any disinformation regarding either the record of Joe Biden and his administration, or any news about the weaponization of the criminal justice system against Trump. So this should be highly, highly entertaining, to say the least. I'm really looking forward to tuning in for that.
Yeah, I can imagine Joe Biden right now is in some sort of an iron lung or hyperbaric chamber. He's got wires coming out of him, and he's got needles giving him fluids and everything. I mean, who knows? He probably, I mean, they got to be just pumping him full of drugs so that he can give this hour-long speech tonight. You mentioned debates. I agree. There's no way they can put Biden on a stage with Trump. I mean, they already canceled the debates in 2020. But I mean, okay, who can they put on a stage with Trump? I mean, Michelle Obama on a stage with Trump? I mean, I don't see how that goes well.
Look, I think it would be a mistake to underestimate her at any cost. Look, we both had Joel Gilbert, great friend of ours, who's got a great documentary and a book called Michelle Obama 2024, which he makes an overwhelming and I think compelling case that she's going to be the nominee. But she would enter the contest with very few negatives. We can sit here and make jokes about her gender all day, but I think to do so in a serious campaign would actually be detrimental. I would like to actually see if Biden will not debate Trump, perhaps the vice president will debate Trump. Although to a certain extent it would be beneath Trump to do that. These people are stuck, and they're increasingly hysterical, Owen. I mean, this morning I watched MSNBC, and I was watching the talking heads there, specifically saying that their own poll must be wrong, that the New York Times Siena College poll shows Trump ahead, that must be wrong, that Biden is far stronger than those polls indicate. I just think that that's wrong.
Well, I don't know any Biden supporters. I mean, really, I have liberal friends. I have friends that vote Democrat. I have pro-choice people that I know. None of them like Joe Biden. Even they would rather vote for Trump against their own, perhaps, political beliefs just because they like having a country that's not falling apart. So they can, well, I mean, just generally speaking, though, I'm getting the same 2016 vibes right now. The liberal mainstream media, the Democrat front groups in the media, they really are going into conniption fits of rage and denial and just complete psychotic breakdowns.
Yeah, there's a hysteria. They're apoplectic. They're near hysterical. One thing I'd point out, I just wrote a long piece on this. They're back to recycling the Russian collusion hoax. You see, that's the thing about leftists. It doesn't matter how debunked, how disproven, how discredited any of their crazy theories are. If you just wait a couple weeks, they'll be right back with them and recycling them back yet again. So we're all the way back to Donald Trump was elected with the assistance of Russian intelligence, which is, of course, a bald-faced lie, an absolute lie. I was thinking specifically of Andrea Mitchell, who on MSNBC says, well, Biden's far more popular and stronger than our own NBC poll shows. Why is she saying that? Because, I don't know, the ladies in her Pilates class think that? I mean, these people are not in any way in touch with average Americans. They don't have their finger on the pulse of what real people are going through or what real people are feeling. But there is indeed an increased hysteria, and it is obviously their last best hope. We've experienced this ourselves, is to lock Donald Trump up. In other words, they're counting on not beating him at the ballot box, but they're counting on convicting him somewhere for something, for some fabricated crime, in the hopes that that will take him down. I think they're going to turn out to be wrong about that as well.
Briefly, what can Joe Biden gain from his State of the Union address tonight? I mean, it is an opportunity. He's not campaigning, so this is virtually a campaign speech for him. This is going to be the most he's spoken to the American people since his last State of the Union. Obviously, he's going to have nothing to do but lie about the state of things. I mean, what is there anything Joe Biden can do to help himself in this State of the Union tonight?
He's going to do three things, I think. One is he's going to continue to tell the false tale of Bidenomics. Go to Bidenomics.com, by the way, which you would think the Biden campaign would have been smart enough to buy, but they didn't. And you can see the truth of this devastating economy. Sure, unemployment is 3.4%. If you don't bother to count the 750,000 people who stopped looking for work in December, or if you don't count the 2 million people who stopped looking for work over the previous year. I mean, and you also can't take into consideration the seasonal adjustments. These fake statistics that they're throwing at us, nobody is feeling them. So he's going to talk about what a solid course he set the economy on. Nobody believes that. Secondarily, he's going to talk about abortion again and again and again. He's going to try to make this election a referendum on abortion, which, of course, those evil Republicans want to outlaw, not recognizing that the overturning of Roe v. Wade turned this decision back to the states, and the states are regulating abortion. But abortion rights are not at risk in the country. That's not the way he'll tell it to you. He's going to go on and on, distorting that IVF decision out of Alabama. Alabama Republicans and the governor there moved very swiftly to protect those who might legitimately seeking to get pregnancy through in vitro. So, but they're going to try to give you the impression that, well, all Republicans are against that. And then lastly, he's going to repeat the lie that if we don't ship another $95 billion to Ukraine, well, not only is Vladimir Putin going to sweep up Ukraine, but he's then going to gobble up Poland, Germany, France, and the rest of Europe, which, of course, there's no evidence to support that idea either.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that analysis. And I'd also add, I expect Joe Biden to say at least one time, democracy is at stake from the people that are destroying democracy. You know, the one thing I noticed, and I'm glad that you brought this up, there really isn't any solid issue that the Democrats can run on right now. If you look at the Democrat Party platform, the issues are not popular. Raising taxes, pro-war, sexualizing children, trans kids, that's not popular stuff. I do think they're going to lean into abortion, but even that's not as popular as they think. I guess what they're hoping here is there are people that will be one single issue voters on abortion. That will be a lot of millions of women potentially. But to me, there is not enough weight there, Roger. There's just not. But I think that's what they're going to lean into.
Yeah, I don't think as you point out, I don't think they have much choice. Now, the most interesting thing here you made reference to, and that is their entire narrative that Trump is somehow a threat to our democracy. Well, let's go through this, if we may. Who is it who's trying to lock up the leading opposition party candidate for president? Something that you would see in Fidel Castro's Cuba or Mao's China or Hitler's Germany or Stalin's Russia. Why? That would be the Democrats. Who is it who wants to limit free speech on the internet through censorship, through cancellation, through shadow banning and so on? Why? That would be the Democrats. We now know definitively that the government under the Obama administration was actively involved in doing exactly that, working hand in glove with these huge Silicon Valley companies. Who is it who is spying on 178,000 Americans without a warrant? Well, that would be the current administration by their own admission. Who is it who dipped into the 702 database to pull up information on 4.5 million Americans? So those are the things that are a threat to democracy. And then when you add to that their attempt to keep Trump off the ballot, just not have an election, keep him off the ballot, What could be more anti-democratic than that? So once again, everything they accuse us of doing is, of course, exactly what they themselves are doing. Joe Biden is the threat to our constitutional republic.
Roger, what in the hell happened during the California primaries this Super Tuesday?
Well, one of your favorite people has progressed to the next level. Now, remember, California has a unique system where they don't have party primaries to choose their nominees anymore. All candidates of all parties run in one, what they call jungle primary, with the two top vote getters then facing off at the November general election. So Watermelon Head himself emerged. I would say that Steve Garvey and Adam Schiff were neck in pencil neck in the outcome of the California primary. They will now face off. There's a couple different dynamics here that are important. Two progressives, Katie Porter from Orange County, who spent a lot of money but did not make the finals. And then Barbara Lee, an African American congresswoman from the Bay Area, was fourth. Those are progressive votes, although given the dichotomy going on in the Democratic Party over the entire issue of Gaza and Israel, how Adam Schiff is going to fare among Barbara Lee's constituents, well, that really remains to be seen. Steve Garvey, the baseball great, played for the LA Dodgers. Surprise finisher here. The demographics don't favor him. On the other hand, Adam Schiff is so odious, so exposed as the fraud that he is. Well, hope springs eternal. Hopefully, Adam Schiff can be flushed once and for all.
Well, what about the fact, and I don't know if you saw, Garvey was winning at one point during the process, and then magically another voter tabulation error goes massively in favor of a Democrat, and then all of a sudden Schiff gets hundreds of thousands of votes, Garvey loses hundreds of thousands of votes, so people are wondering what happened with that. And then there was the issue of Charlotta Bassett, how the ballot was all screwed up for her.
Yeah, that's she's actually a very good personal friend of mine. I endorsed her. She's a great woman, Charlotta Bassett, and she's on the ballot, on the paper ballot. In English, she's correctly identified as a Republican, but in Chinese, because there is a Chinese section of the ballot, she's identified as a Democrat. She's most definitely not a Democrat. But you know what? Charlotta was lucky. At least she got on the ballot. There were 27 candidates who were duly qualified for the U.S. Senate. Not all of them made the ballot in all places. Then beyond that, the Secretary of State would require you to send in your information for a voter guide. But, well, Charlotta's information was sent in plenty of time, but it miraculously just did not appear. I used to say Nevada probably had the dirtiest election system in the country. I'm now beginning to believe that California is right up there with them. I think, in truth, in some of these close House races 2 years ago, Republicans actually won, but the Democrats were coming up with ballots, 10 days, 2 weeks after the election. I would urge Charlotta to get a good, solid lawyer and bring a lawsuit, because very clearly her rights and the rights of some of these other candidates have been violated.
Well, I've always scratched my head, and it's like, how do people like Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff and Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, how do they win election after election after election after election? I mean, it truly is. It's almost as much of a modern marvel as Schiff's watermelon head with a toothpick neck.
Yeah, I mean, look, all of those people come from overwhelmingly solid Democrat districts, and 99% of incumbents get reelected. They're certainly not going to be exposed by the media. I mean, Adam Schiff said that he had seen more than circumstantial evidence of Russian collusion between Russian intelligence and the Trump campaign in 2016. And, well, we're still waiting for it. And then he falls back to this mantra. Well, we know that the Russians offered the Trump campaign help. We know that the Trump campaign accepted that help. And we know the Trump campaign used that help. Every single part of that is a lie. It's false. Then it is, oh, Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort shared polling data with a man named Konstantin Kalemnik, who was a Russian intelligence asset. Well, there's a couple problems with that. There was no proprietary Trump campaign polling data at the time this allegedly happened, and Konstantin Kalemnik was an American intelligence asset. The whole thing is yet another one of Adam Schiff's major lies. You can always tell when Adam Schiff is lying. You know how? Because his lips are moving.
Roger Stone, just prime fashion Roger Stone. This has been an incredible interview. But guess what? We got another segment coming up with Roger next. Don't go anywhere.
Guys like Adam Schiff and Shifty Pencil Neck. Pencil Neck. He's a marvel. No, he's a structural marvel. He has a neck, and his head is like a watermelon, and his neck. And how that neck can hold up that big, oversized, ugly head is hard to believe. No, it's true.
It's a modern marvel.
Big head. It's like your finger on a basketball. Some of these guys, they spin it. No, he's a terrible guy.
If it's Schiff, flush it. Roger Stone with us here. That's just great stuff. That's just great stuff from Donald Trump. All right. I want to get into an issue that Roger, I'm really focusing on here. And I think we as populists behind Donald Trump need to really understand this for messaging purposes as we get closer to the election now. Swalwell tweets this out last evening. He says, the Republican Party is dead. It's not coming back. This is now a MAGA extreme party that prefers violence over voting. Well, he's obviously lying about the last part. That's the left that threatens you with violence. But I don't want to go into that. I want to talk about him saying the Republican Party is dead. There's an element of truth to this. The corrupt establishment swamp Republican Party is dying. I don't know if it's dead. I mean, Nikki Haley did just drop out. That might be some evidence. McConnell refuses to walk away till November. Ronna Romney McDaniel, for some reason, won't go away. So it's not dead yet. They still have their representation in positions of power and influence, but it's waning, Roger. And I think that the truth is that there is a new Republican voter base. There is a new Republican Party represented by people like Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, maybe Josh Hawley and some others. I like to call it the new right. I mean, you look at the man that just won the primary for governor in North Carolina, who they're trying to destroy with all this stuff that he says, well, it might be crazy. I don't care if he thinks the moon is made out of cheese. If he has good policy that supports his people in North Carolina, then I like him. How do you summarize this, Roger? I kind of call it the new right. We want America first. We want criminals arrested. We believe that America can have a positive future. I mean, this is the new right. How do you kind of summarize all of this? Is Eric Swalwell right? The old establishment Republican Party, is it dead?
Well, Owen, I think Senator Barry Goldwater said this at the 1960 convention when he said, the Republican Party is our traditional home, speaking as a conservative. So, yes, the country club, neocon dominated inside the Beltway Republican Party of Mitt Romney and John McCain and some of their predecessors, that party is indeed dead. The new Republican Party is the party of working Americans. It is the party of the middle class. It is the party of America first. It's a non-interventionist party. So we're not going out looking for foreign wars around the world in which we can stick our nose, but where we have no inherent interest. Donald Trump has completely reinvigorated the old, stiff, stolid, boring Republican Party of the country club and of the Bushes. And now what you see potentially is a substantial political realignment as Hispanic voters, and Asian voters and an increasing number of African American voters, and as younger voters start moving, in some cases historically for the first time, to the Republican Party. So Eric Swalwell's, what he doesn't recognize is the old Democratic Party is dead. That being the Democratic Party of Harry Truman and John F. Kennedy, the party that was anti-communist, a party that was for a strong national defense, a party that supported capitalism. That party is dead. And now the two parties are now, I think, realigned more traditionally the way the British parties used to be realigned. We are the conservative party. They are not even the Liberal Party anymore. They're the leftist, progressive, Marxist party. They don't even make any bones about the fact that they prefer socialism over capitalism. That would be unthinkable just a few short years ago. But to think that our party's dead, no, our party's more vibrant, it's broader, and I think more inclusive. And they're petrified by looking at these new polling numbers. There has never been a time, Owen, when the Republican nominee for president outpolled the Democratic nominee among Hispanic voters, ever. But we're now seeing that for the first time. And it has them petrified, absolutely petrified.
Well, and I really would like to see what the Republican Party would look like with all the tools that it has if it's actually being run by America First people, like we could see potentially after the 2024 presidential election. I mean, maybe Mike Johnson comes more to our side. Maybe we have a different speaker. Maybe we get more of a Rand Paul or Josh Hawley for the Senate leadership. And then, of course, Donald Trump. I'd like to see, even with maybe Whatley potentially running the RNC, I mean, anything is better than Ronna Romney McDaniel. She's completely worthless. I mean, I look at all the opportunities wasted, like MSNBC insulting the voters in Virginia and West Virginia. They should have made that into an ad, and it should be running in Virginia and West Virginia every day from now till the election. They should take the clips of Swalwell and Schiff saying, I have the evidence, in front of Congress, lying to the American people. There was no evidence. I mean, it's just we don't even swing at these fastballs that the Democrats give us right down the plate to hit out of the park. Now, Roger, you can either respond to that in the last 3 minutes, or what role do you think RFK plays from here on out?
Well, you know, that really remains to be seen, Owen. First of all, let me say you're going to have a sea change at the Republican National Committee. This is inside baseball to some, but I believe Chris LaCivita, who served his country at time of war, a decorated veteran, to my mind, one of the very best strategists, operatives, mechanics in the Republican Party today, a man with an enormous capacity politically, partially responsible with a handful of others for Trump's amazing follow-through and the execution of their plan in the Iowa caucuses, where they tripled the previous high watermark, the smashing victory in New Hampshire. Chris LaCivita is slated, as I understand it, to go over and take over the operations of the Republican National Committee, which means things are going to be very honestly run. And for the first time ever, every single dollar will be spent efficiently. And he will start, in my opinion, cutting the overhead, getting rid of the consultants and the other freeloaders. So this, from an operative point of view, is very important because the Republican National Committee legally can do things in conjunction with the presidential nominee that only the National Party can do. As far as RFK is concerned, this is a longer subject, but we have to see if he makes the ballot. I mean, getting on the ballot as an independent is far more difficult than people think it is, because the rules that govern ballot access are written by Republicans and Democrats working together to make it as difficult to get on the ballot as possible. Early on, some of the national polls showed that RFK pulled disproportionately from Trump. But then when you look at it on a state-by-state basis, that does not necessarily appear to be the case. And in a number of the swing states, I really question whether he can get on the ballot in the end as an independent. In a number of the other swing states, he appears, at least today, in some cases, to being pulled disproportionately from Joe Biden and the Democrats, rather than Trump and the Republicans.
Yeah, I think somebody from the Trump campaign or Trump himself needs to reach out to RFK and cut a deal and basically say, look, the thing is going to be rigged against you. You can't get on the ballot, but come out, run a good campaign, and then endorse Trump, and we'll give you a role in the administration. Is that possible, Roger?
I don't know anything about that. In all honesty, I think that the guy has some positions I really like. He has some positions I really don't like. I think he's going to be very, very frustrated in his attempts to maneuver his way onto the ballot as an independent.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?